It's Friday, November 20th, and this is now on H&N.
We're adding this safety precaution now.
The governor tightens pre-travel testing rules amid concerns about those arriving without their results.
The coronavirus pandemic is more widespread than ever before. I'm Danya Backus with the latest restrictions being imposed across the country to stop the spread.
Nobody to talk to.
8 months into Hawaii's economic crisis, thousands are still waiting for their unemployment benefits.
A new NASA spacecraft aims to help scientists better understand rising sea levels. I'm Chris Martinez with why researchers call this an urgent mission.
For some areas, it's going up faster than others.
The toy known as Baby Yoda has parents moving fast to snatch one up in time for the holidays. I'm Naomi Ruckham with a look at some of this year's hottest toys.
These stories plus a one-on-one interview with the coordinator of the White House's Coronavirus Task Force. That's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news regarding the rail project.
Rail board officials have thrown in the towel on the public-private partnership effort that HART CEO Andrew Robbins said was the best way forward for the project. Mayor Kirk Caldwell pulled the city out of negotiations with the bidders after saying it was not the best interest of taxpayers. HART executives have told the board that the first meeting with the city over a renewed effort to build with more traditional contracting is scheduled for this afternoon.
All right, we got a lot more news to get to here on This Is Now. We're still awaiting those numbers from the State Department of Health. Meanwhile, nationally, the pandemic is more widespread than ever.
That's right. Hospitalizations are on the rise in almost all 50 states. And in California, a curfew has now been ordered in most counties. Danya Backus has the latest, including some positive news on the vaccine front.
With cases of the coronavirus surging throughout the country, a vaccine may be on the way. Drug maker Pfizer is requesting emergency use authorization from the FDA for its vaccine, which may be more than 90% effective.
Should this be approved, we would then expect that our first shipment of roughly 130,000 doses would arrive in-state around Christmas time.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy welcomed the news as parts of his state impose strict measures to contain the spread. All residents in the city of Newark are being asked to stay at home for 10 days beginning next Wednesday. And starting tonight, a curfew is in effect in some areas.
We need that because we have too much cases over here.
Frontline workers say they are not only battling the virus, but denial from people who think COVID is fake news.
I have never seen so much death and so much sickness in the past 2 weeks than I have in my entire 10 years in healthcare.
California's governor is imposing an overnight stay-at-home order for most counties that keeps people from leaving their homes from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. in an effort to slow the spread.
The order goes into effect Saturday and will impact businesses in hot zones like Los Angeles County.
All it's going to do is cause more people to go on unemployment because I'm going to furlough another 5 people beginning next week.
The CDC is also urging Americans not to travel over the Thanksgiving holiday, strongly suggesting people celebrate with people they live with.
I get it, but it's Thanksgiving and people want to be with their families.
A week before the holiday, people lined up for boxes of food in Colorado. Feeding America, the nation's largest hunger relief organization, says the coronavirus-related economic crisis could leave 54 million Americans unable to access affordable food. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Some big changes to the state's pre-travel testing program starting next Tuesday. Those travelers who want to skip quarantine will need to have their negative test results before boarding their flight.
Currently 94% of travelers participating in the pre-travel testing program for Hawaii arrive here with their test in hand. But at least 44 travelers who took the pre-travel test before departure got a positive result upon arrival or a day or two later. It isn't a large number, but it's enough to change the policy. We have to close the gap to ensure everyone's safety. The health of our residents and visitors is our primary concern, especially as more people travel to Hawaii to celebrate the holidays.
In the past, if your results didn't come in by the time you landed in Hawaii, you would have to quarantine until those negative results came in and were verified. Now that's no longer a possibility, and while the HTA supported the tighter restrictions, at least one airline is speaking out against the changes. Hawaiian Airlines said that not giving leeway to passengers will deter many from coming.
The head of our contact tracing efforts here in Hawaii says the virus is mostly being spread by residents. We talked to Dr. Emily Roberson this morning on Sunrise.
But looking at the numbers themselves right now, are we in a bad place?
We're definitely not in a bad place compared to most jurisdictions. The mainland is experiencing a lot of higher case loads than we are, and right now we're at a level that we're managing. However, we would obviously like the case numbers to be lower if we get the choice.
Yeah, 0 would be a great number to have, right?
Ideally, yes.
So I wanted to ask you, because you're the head of contact tracing, where are you seeing the spread of the virus mostly?
So the majority of the spread that we're seeing is really occurring within households. So people here in Hawaii that are spreading it among their family members and their close friends. So that would be the majority of the clusters that we see is in family groups, extended family, and close friends.
And one thing that I wanted to ask you is about USS Michael Murphy. NBC News reporting that a quarter of the sailors, a quarter of the 300, have tested positive for coronavirus. And I wanted to know what role the DOH plays in tracking those numbers, because that's at the federal level.
So we have a good relationship with our military points of contact here in Hawaii. So we actually have a specialized investigation liaison who works specifically with the military to make sure that we have a bidirectional data flow going between the state and the federal government, so that we have awareness of what's going on in our community, even though those are technically service members that are under the federal side as well. But we do have connections with them, and we keep in regular contact, so we are aware of any cases, and we work with them on contact tracing to the extent needed.
Well, the state's unemployment numbers remain stagnant this week, and there's still a lot of people waiting to get paid. Casey Lunn spoke with some of them.
Good afternoon. The number of new initial unemployment claims actually rose by 66 this week. Now, that's not a significant change, but it shows us that thousands of people are still struggling to get by. And we thought it important that after 8 months into this pandemic, we take a look back at all that's happened since this all started early this spring.
On March 6th, Hawaii saw its first confirmed coronavirus case. The governor told non-essential state workers to stay home on March 17th, and a day later, the unemployment office shut its doors to the public. Then came the traveler quarantine and statewide stay-at-home order. March ended with more than 80,000 unemployment claims filed. April begins with close to a quarter of the state unemployed. By the end of May, the state reported that scammers were causing huge problems and slowing payments, especially for PUA claims. On June 5th, DLIR Director Scott Murakami goes on leave.
I ordered Director Murakami to take some time off because, as you know, he was under tremendous pressure.
July closes out another hard hit for Hawaii's unemployed when the extra $600 of additional weekly federal money runs out. Despite hundreds of volunteers and added state workers, few can get answers.
Nobody paying any attention to people who need help and just ignoring us for months and weeks on end. You know, it's a terrible way to treat people.
Scott Murakami officially steps down as DLIR director on August 10th. Around the same time, the large phone bank at the convention center is dismantled. September begins with promises of a new virtual call center as claimants get desperate for their benefits.
I'm digging into my kids' savings. That's financially sad, you know? That's money that I'm saving towards my kids' college fund. Why do I have to do that?
Later that month, the governor appoints Ann Pereira Estacio as director of DLIR. And in October, as promised, the state announces the new call center is up and running. But it rolls out with lackluster results, as many still can't get through. On October 14th, the state begins mailing out $500 restaurant cards, providing some relief to families and support to struggling local eateries. November kicks off with claimants rallying in front of the DLIR building and Capitol, demanding the UI office reopen and expand services.
At this stage, since so many have been waiting for so long, the government of Hawaii and the Department of Labor, State of Hawaii, simply need to pay people.
That brings us to today, and we reached out to the director, Ann Pereira Estacio of DLIR, to get an answer about why people are still struggling to get their payments, and more importantly, still struggling to get answers through the state's new virtual call center. She was not able to get back to us in time for this broadcast. Reporting downtown, I'm Casey Lund for This Is Now.
Next time you ride the bus, a new device may be cleaning the air. A new purification system by NFI Parts uses UV light to sanitize the air and send out hydroperoxides. These compounds are said to be effective against SARS, MERS, and COVID viruses and have been used in hospitals, restaurants, and office buildings. They will be installed on select buses and handy vans, which will be identified with the company log. Honolulu's mayor and the lieutenant governor are at odds over the state's surveillance testing program. They're both also eyeing a future run for governor. Rick Dasog has more on the dispute.
This is not a scientific study of surveillance test results that tell me as the mayor what kind of risk we're taking on.
It's easy to throw stones, but when you're looking at 273,000 people screened and you do a study and you get these kind of data, and you see that we have the lowest rate in the country, I would refer to that as a success.
The beef is over the state's surveillance testing program. That program is supposed to screen for asymptomatic visitors traveling to Hawaii who might have gotten a negative test result from the state's pre-travel testing program. Caldwell says most of the 17,000 visitors who have taken the voluntary post-arrival test did not do so on Oahu. Only 1,000 did. And he says those tested were tested at the airport upon landing and not 4 days later as the program was supposed to be designed.
Be like any of you or all of you watching, if you got a test and you were negative and said, I'll come down here to the airport and get a test 5 hours later. Hey, look, I'm still negative. Well, duh.
But Lieutenant Governor Josh Green, who designed the program, says the results speak for themselves. Less than 0.2% of the visitors taking part in the surveillance testing program have tested positive in the follow-up test.
Mayor's prerogative to complain about things is his own, but other people are testing plenty, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Green added that the program is just one of many layers of screening to prevent the spread from tourists. Rick Dasog, Hawaii News Now.
CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, sat down with the coordinator of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Here's his exclusive interview with Dr. Deborah Birx.
When you look at what's happening now, the rate of rise is dramatically different. And the number of states and the number of counties in the United States that have what we consider a red zone because of their characteristics is now well over half of the country. So this is faster, it's broader, and what worries me, it could be longer. And I think it's on all of us right now to make sure that it's not longer. I'm making the personal sacrifices not to infect my parents and my pregnant daughter, and there's a lot of people out there who know how to protect one another, and we just need to make sure we're all doing that.
You saw the news about New York City public schools. Because of a 3% positivity rate, they're going to shut down. Good decision?
You know, Europe was willing to sacrifice restaurants and bars to maintain their schools. We asked college students to sacrifice their college experience, and even the universities that were open, it was a different experience. But we asked them to change their behaviors, to wear a mask, to physically distance. We have 18 to 22-year-olds doing the right thing, and we're not willing to tell people that they really can't gather in public spaces or even indoors with their mask off with people that could have the virus, because that's how it spreads, and you can't tell. And I think when this is all over, we need to look at our choices and really understand in a different way what choices is best for every American at the time.
Some of this is happening real time. I mean,
Yes.
there will be time to reflect, but the New York City Public Schools, based on their surveillance testing, has about a 0.17% positivity rate. Why would you shut down schools when they're 0.17 and the city's 3% and keep restaurants and bars and other places like that open, even at limited capacity?
I think the thing that confuses Americans, and I've heard this in the Rocky Mountain states, when we tell people that these masks prevent transmission, they're not perfect, but when we tell them they prevent transmission and then we close the spaces where people are 100% masked and leave open the spaces where the people are unmasked, which we know is a transmission area, that's confusing to the American people. I understand why it's confusing. They're like, okay, you said masks work, and I'm doing them here, and these spaces are safe, and you're closing my space and leaving open the spaces where people are on masks. And I think that's I worry about that, because then it gives people the option to say, well, if bars and restaurants are open, then I can have 20 people over for Thanksgiving. And so I don't like it to be any number. I like it to be, keep it to your immediate household. Because, if you say it can be 10 and it's 8 people from 4 different families, then that probably is not the same degree of safe as 10 people from your immediate household.
And we just got in those coronavirus numbers from the State Department of Health. They are reporting 1 new COVID-19 fatality and 95 new cases today. The breakdown shows 70 cases are on Oahu, 13 on the Big Island, 5 on Maui, 1 on Kauai, and 6 out of state.
All right, let's switch gears here, take you outside. Look at Aloha Tower. I cannot wait to get out there. Everybody's working for that weekend, right?
That's right.
Here's Guy Hoggy with a check of what it's going to look like.
How's it on this Aloha Friday? We've got breezy trade winds taking over the state, getting stronger over the weekend. And those trade winds will push in some of this upstream moisture into those windward areas, falling mainly in the overnight and early morning hours. Now, rainfall totals will be light to moderate. Trade winds, however, will be running at surplus speeds. Today, the winds will be stronger than yesterday. Tomorrow, the winds will be stronger than today. And those strong winds will continue probably into the early part of next week. So we're going to see lots of sunshine today for those leeward areas. Windward sides will be cloudy from time to time with passing showers. Temperatures running to about 85 degrees. And there's a small craft advisory for the east end of the state. Now, as far as the surf, that northwest swell that came up yesterday is on the downslide. It's on the decline. But another boost is due in tomorrow. Now, if you're unfamiliar with large surf, if you're can't surf in those big waves, stay away from north and west shores for the next couple of days. And east shores as well will start to build as those trade winds build. That trade wind swell will get bigger. In fact, over the weekend, high surf advisories could be posted for east shores. So again, trade winds breezy today, getting stronger over the weekend, especially strong on Sunday, and they will be getting weaker on Wednesday. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Tomorrow, NASA will launch a satellite into the Earth's orbit to study a growing threat, sea level rise. Here's Chris Martinez.
The world's biggest Earth-observing satellite will soon keep a watchful eye on the planet's rising sea levels from above.
Sea level rise isn't the same everywhere. Some areas it's going up faster than others.
Ben Hamlington is a research scientist with the Sentinel-6 mission. He says sea levels are now rising at an alarming rate. The Sentinel-6 will use radar altimetry to provide near real-time measurements of sea surface height, tracking changes down to mere centimeters. That high-precision data will help scientists better understand both the cause and effect of sea level rise around the globe.
These satellite observations are really critical from a planning perspective, both to tell us how sea level is changing now and then using that understanding to infer how it might change in the future.
Sentinel-6 will measure more than sea height. It will also record wind speeds and study the atmosphere, which will help scientists track climate patterns and better forecast the weather. The satellite joins a fast-growing network of observatories from several space agencies working together to track climate change. Researchers say understanding sea level rise is among their most urgent tasks, with the number of people living in coastal areas expected to double by 2060.
As sea level continues to rise, more and more people are going to realize the immediacy of the problem and begin to see the impacts of this.
Sentinel-6 is set to carry out its mission for at least 5 years, with its replacement, the Sentinel-6B, already slated to launch in 2025 to keep the study going. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Love me some space news. Now let's go ahead and check out what the internet is talking about today. And we're going to start with one of my favorite other topics other than space, the
and
royal
cats.
And cats, you're right. The royal family, of course. That's because Britain's Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip are celebrating their 73rd wedding anniversary today. Friday. I don't know what day it is in the UK right now. I can't do the math that fast. The two have been together in lockdown at Windsor Castle since March. Whoa, that's a long time. In a statement, the royal family says the couple enjoying the day, reading cards, especially the ones handmade from their grandchildren. Oh, that's a really cute card there, too. The Queen and the King were married back in 1947. She was only 21 years old. You can totally watch it all play out in my favorite show, The Crown, which is on season 4, and it launched on Sunday. I finished the whole thing, except for I fell asleep in the very last episode, so I need to rewatch that one.
All right, well, congratulations to them. And you guys, the pandemic is obviously changing the way we celebrate holidays and special occasions like birthdays, but there's a tradition you may not have thought about, Groundhog Day. So don't worry, Punxsutawney Phil, the famous Pennsylvania groundhog, will still make an appearance this coming February. However, there will not be any in-person attendance or guests at Gobbler's Knob on February 2nd. The Punxsutawney Groundhog Club made the announcement this week. They said in a release that they're developing live virtual events instead.
Everyone says it feels like Groundhog's Day the movie.
That is
right?
true. Mm-hmm.
All right, CBS News put together a list of the hottest toys. That's our good news today.
Pull the ripcord and let it fly.
The race is on to buy the must-have holiday toys kids are clamoring for. The Toy Insider's Marissa DiBartolo says this year many parents have their own wish lists.
Let's see what we get.
With old-school items, including the Price is Right-inspired Plinko game.
Because you can't go anywhere. So this year families are really looking for things like board games and activity toys and things that they can all play together.
The National Retail Federation says Legos and other classic toys like Barbie are popular this year. So are high-tech video game consoles and this Mario Kart Live.
Here we go.
There's a camera on top so kids can get the racer's perspective.
One of the hottest toys this year is this Kitty Zoom Creator Cam. It can switch to selfie mode and even comes with a green screen so kids can create their own backgrounds like dinosaurs.
Kids are watching videos on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok more than ever before, and this camera is a safe way for them to really dabble in making their own videos.
Kids will also be asking for new toys from Ryan and LOL Surprise.
Get ready to move.
The latest version of Baby Shark is expected to be a hit.
Take it up.
And may the force be with parents trying to get this Star Wars toy.
The Child is definitely one of those big hot items this year.
The Child, aka Baby Yoda, now comes in a remote control version.
And they can use that to control all of the child's movements. You can make him walk, you can play hide and seek with him.
Experts say parents seeking a hot toy don't want to wait too long. The pandemic has more people buying online, which could lead to shipping delays. Naomi Rockham, CBS News, New York.
I want that Plinko game.
The green screen.
I know, that's so high-tech. I cannot believe that's even happening.
So kids can do our job with a toy now.
Go for it, kids.
Great.
That's going to do it for This Is Now on this Aloha Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday.